everything's set up here for recording and the such. How are you doing? Everything's set up here for recording and the such. The recording's working, that's good. Oh, can you hear me? Maybe you can't hear me because I'm on mute. Oh, I was on mute. Yeah, I was saying that I was doing good, and I was just setting up the recording and the such. And how are you doing?
All right.
What?
Feeling a little discouraged today by stuff.
What are you discouraged about?
Daughter is not here. Yeah, a daughter that's trying to process her pain, and it's my fault, which probably is. It's what mothers are for.
Geez. Well, hopefully it works out.
Yeah. I believe it will work out in the highest good of all and for her greatest healing.
Nice. All right, so I'm getting a document for the notes for today.
Thank you.
My computer is though, but I think we'll be all right. Let's see. You kind of keep cutting in and out.
Good day.
Okay, if you send the link, then I can have that open just in case you. In a few minutes, Jim, for others to show.
All right, I linked the notes.
Great. Thank you. Got it.
Cool.
You want me to put.
Are you guys able to hear me?
You. I was not hearing you, no, and you weren't hearing me either.
Can you hear me now at all? Or?
I can hear you now, yes.
I tried closing a bunch of things on my computer to see if that helps. Hopefully it does.
Imagine you have 10 million windows open.
Always unless. All right, so this is the Water planning group.
No. And
Morning.
yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Hey.
So I think we should probably start going. We can wait a few more minutes, see if anybody else pops on. How is everybody?
Good. Good. Should we do a round of like check-ins and such?
Sure.
I guess I could start checking in.
All right.
I am doing okay. Got up very early this morning and we had a 3-hour meeting for our executive team, which went well. And I am concerned but also happy in terms of just like hopefully getting a little more clarity in terms of my role and involvement in this group, which would be awesome to have. I mean, I don't think it's going to get finalized today, but at least to go that direction, because there seems to be interest in having the discussion about the organizational framework. And then I here locally in Palo Alto, Stanford, it is I live near the San Francisco Creek, and also the yeah, well, that's the closest one, so I'll just leave it at that. And I also am very connected to the Monterey Bay, in the coast here along the central coast. It's quite a large presence here, and go to the beach a lot. So, and I lived in Santa Cruz some too, so right there. But yeah, I think that's enough for me. No, check.
Thank you, Jay. I'm going to invite us just to come into resonance with each other, and then we'll use. So, just taking some deep breaths, really. What? I'm going to record. All right. Now we're recording. I remember, yeah, have your water with you. Just invite it in with your love, with your caring and connection. So we come into unity with the water. We remember the unity with each other as a group, both those that are here in attendance and those that had hoped to be here but are represented in spirit and intention. Feeling to the energy of this particular day, this particular moment, this particular collection of water babies. Breathe deep, taking this in, filling your cells with this presence of the here and now. Allow your breath to vitalize your blood, to remove what no longer serves us, to recycle this life force, bring it in. Let's do its thing inside our body as we give our actions, our passions, our wisdom, our tears, our laughter, we return this life force to life in a fluid flow of connection and synchronicity. And in this moment, we invite our essential source water, that primary intelligence that is us, as we are expressing this essence with every breath we receive, with every step we give back in return, with every action we share. We are here, we are together, and we are in unity. Thank you all for being here. Just continue with my share. I'm kind of in a interesting place today. Today I went to the Mayan fire in the connection field with Jose, the Mayan timekeeper, and he said today was the day of obsidian, where we use that sacred stone to cut away all that does not serve us, even if it's allowing us to really let go and pare down to the essentials and come into unity with the sacred water. It's a fire ceremony, but today he brought in the water, which was beautiful. So I felt that was a good thing to bring in here, was that continuity of sacred prayer. Having some pain with family, and to really offer that to the essential water to wash that clean, and with the obsidian be able to cut away all that no longer serves us, so we can begin again and begin anew and resolve our miscommunications and misunderstandings and mistakes and missing the point, missing the love. Really been enjoying the awakening that seems to, the quickening that's happening. Had a very powerful session with We Are Rising Tide in the connection field. Really felt like a trim tab, a moment of trim tab, of just a very subtle activism between those of us that were gathered on that call to really bring in our watersheds and bring in the wisdom of our watersheds. And it really felt like a demonstration of where I feel the water wants us to go as humans, with the concept of the Watershed Wisdom Councils, and the great planetary water cleanup that keeps coming back and keeps moving itself forward in my psyche and in my spirit and my heart. So I'm complete for now, and thank you. Hello, Glow. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for holding the space.
We just came into resonance. I hope you caught some of it. And,
Yeah, it sounded beautiful.
And just doing updates and quick updates.
Should I go next, or?
You can go next if you wish, if you're called to, yes.
Yeah, yesterday we had an amazing meeting with a lot of the people from World Unity Week. Another group is forming in terms of uniting math systems and kind of uniting all the networks together. Super powerful. The Daniel Eagle held the call, so it was amazing. I had some amazing calls with Elizabeth and Jim in the last couple days. Super awesome. And yeah, I'm super grateful for everything that's coming through. Now I've been working closely with the humanitarian movement. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but now we're starting to build this new campaign around that. So there's going to be a lot of upcoming events for that as well. Super easy movement to build, as you know, everyone. I feel like everyone should just plant themselves as a tree as well. So super exciting. And yesterday I also hopped into a new call, like a sustainability pathways call with a woman in San Francisco, and I met two other organizations doing incredible things in India. Like one is like all the farming and the work, like the local produce, and then another woman, like just huge amazing projects with women's empowerment and you know really talking about the empowerment we need in a culture shift for you know climate change and all these different things. So it's interesting to see where people are and to have more inspiration come through because that's what keeps us going. So it's amazing and yeah, things have been challenging, but super grateful to hold this space and always coming back into resonance with our hearts and unity and the water. Right now, I'm gonna just turn the camera around for a second. I'm near this river. I'm just in Dominican at this cute it's a vortex restaurant called Cafe Monacongo, and I'm just gonna turn this video around. How do I turn this around? Okay, so let's go check out the water. This is the water here. It was a little bit sunnier earlier, but it's
We've lost you, Glow.
still super over. So girl to be near the water. Sorry, did it cut out?
Yeah, you walked beyond the internet.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's just giving
Yeah,
gratitude.
we do see it.
The
It
water.
looks like a beautiful river.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing it. Does it have a name?
I need to learn that. I should learn that.
Well, we invite that river to join us.
Thank you.
One thing I could add real quick until someone else wants to jump in is that because we scheduled later in the day, so it's more like daytime here in the Americas. Some of our friends in Eurasia and Africa and other parts are sleeping right now, but they are still aware and and connected and interested in all. We'll see how things evolve.
Beautiful.
Yes. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you for that. I figure we probably have to alternate.
Yeah, like the next open sessions with the World Water Law, there are like there's one half in the middle of the night and the other half's during the day, right? So it's like
Right.
Okay, I'll go. We're getting a lot of rain today, so I've got water falling from above. We have a little stream in the back of our property that usually runs very, very slow, but it's just flowing nicely right now. So we decided to make a showing with all this rain. I spent some time with a new group, Equality Chat, which is just starting up, looking at social justice, and Waters being part of that. I had a couple friends who started it, so I've just spent a little time with them on the front end. I spent some time yesterday online with some of the Standing Rock folks from when we were at the protest. Seems like a million years ago now. A lot of rejoicing. Probably 3/4 of the conversation was around the water, because a lot of us stood along that water for a long time and said prayers and did ceremonies and never gave up. That's what I kept hearing. I don't think one person who was on that call yesterday gave up or thought that we had lost. And that was powerful. Kind of brought tears to my eyes. Because at times I admit, I was like, wow, are we ever going to win any of these little battles? We're winning the bigger battle. But now I'm watching us do that. As we stop that pipeline, another pipeline is being stopped. The third one, they're backing out because it's now becoming unprofitable. And half of Oklahoma belongs to the Native Americans now.
Yeah.
That's quite a couple days. That's a huge, huge shift. And so it affirms for me that in fact we are. I gotta get a hold of Jose. I haven't talked to him for a while, but we both know the Mayan teachings. We are coming out the tail end of the chaos. I think we're still going to have rough times, but some of these things are the rebuilding, and that's the power point, and that's what we're working on, rebuilding. So, yeah, even with all the rain and the cloudiness and two dogs that are very angry because they can't go out much, it's a pretty good day.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm in the Upper Caribou, and I have with me Nechako River and, of course, Fraser River. Had a beautiful ceremony with Nechako last night on the way to my event, a sound journey that I was leading on the event Integrating Change, on the theme Integrating Change. And yeah, Nechako, she's someone, I live at the confluence currently, and she's someone who I almost drowned in when we first met. And so since then I was like, not really feeling overly inspired to get to know you better. But since I've moved back here, yeah, I've been building that relationship. Yeah, last night was absolutely extraordinary. And so I'm this morning, the field of the sound field that we created together, the themes that came through, the messages that people were given personally and shared are still ringing out. One that has stayed with me, grief was a really big theme that was expressed. Grief not only of specific loss, but grief of the loss of our way of life. And so, yeah, I think that's a reality for all of us, and it's important, I'm realizing, yeah, to give that grief the time and the place in our lives. But one piece that a woman shared was, the message she got was, be at peace. There's purpose in everything that is happening. Be at peace. There's purpose in everything that is happening. And then someone else was given a message, and it was essentially two people can hold polarized viewpoints, and both are right. And this was just in her own life a timely message. And so, yeah, that one really stayed with me too. I'm as I've already shared, this human interaction, whether it's in person or online, is still a learning edge for me. I'm navigating my own capacity for how much, and balancing how much screen time, email interactions, Facebook, and solo quiet time, and then, you know, time with my nature relatives. So I think I really overdid it last week, and so I needed to just withdraw very much of this week. And so that's just a reality that I'm going to continue to navigate. I am excited. I've checked out a few of the different spaces that are operating, like the connection, the conversation, and those sorts of things. So I do feel very hopeful and very excited about all the different ways we're finding to come together and to pool our wisdom and to pool our genius. and I find that really, really exciting. Yeah, I don't think I have anything more to share other than on the topic itself that we're here to discuss, and so I'll leave that until the time. The only other thing I will just say is that I'm not sure I can stay for the entire 2 hours today. I have something else that's requiring my attention. So, I may be leaving around 1:30 or 1:15, something like that. So, thank you.
I think seeing that we're a small group, we may consider shortening if we need to, but thank you for that. So we had Jim and I and the rest of the Loving Waters Council met because we've sort of been holding open space for my own self a little bit to see how the council responded. We're in a process of really redefining ourselves or rededicating ourselves even more than redefining. And so that process took most of our meeting time. And I was able to present it, but we didn't come to any conclusion. And we're going to have another meeting. Everybody seems interested, but I'm guessing that the energy that is doesn't quite seem in alignment with the Loving Waters Council and how as it stands today and after that meeting. So I've let them know that we're just going to keep moving forward and see how we can weave our braids together and support each other. And it may be that in our meeting in 2 weeks that could evolve and change, but for now it's still undefined with regards to our relationship with the Loving Waters Council. So I wanted to give that update. Jim, do you want to speak to that at all?
No, you presented it pretty well. I don't think it's that we're not in alignment as a council. We just are not sure exactly what we want the council to look like now. I think it is a redefining. It's a growth thing. It's not a negative thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much going on that I think most organizations now are looking and saying, okay, what stays the same, what changes, and what leaves.
Yeah. And that's the planet over, pretty much every organization is having to re-examine their models and how they're operating. And I think even more especially the organizations that are dedicated to human transformation. So with regards to sort of this water unity group, I would like to open it up just for us to. I like what you said, Jim, about let's really consider the purpose first, because we can't really decide if we want an organization until we decide what purpose we want to apply that organization to. Yeah, so just the sharing bowls in the center. I mean, pick it up if they.
I think you, Elizabeth, and Jay kind of took the lead on this. So maybe if you guys share, what do you see, or what did you see? Has it changed, or is it the same?
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. For me, it's the same. The same imperative, the same impetus, the same sense of needing to gather people. And for me, the heart of that is actually the heart of Loving Waters as well, which is to remind humanity of our sacred relationship with water, our essential source water, and recognize the unity consciousness and the infinite diversity within that, and a certain celebration and Loving Waters is very much about the education of that, and I see that what is calling me forth into this group is a more sort of tangible, moccasins on the ground um, way to get people to come together around their watersheds, and how to connect existing water advocacy organizations, um, as well as how to inspire people that haven't quite thought about it before. Um, one thing that Charlie said after our session with We Are Rising Tide session, and Charlie's been doing water work for at least a decade and a half, if long time. And we really dropped in and really invited that listening to water, and the way that that session had meshed just seamlessly with a session before called Pool of Wonder, and those 2 hours just completely supported each other. And then the work that the interview with Glow, and it's just that day there was such a seamless weaving of the energies that it was like, yes, this is it. This is, and Charlie himself said, I something opened in me that I've never had open before. And Charlie's all about the, really the energy of the water. And so for even Charlie and Oriana, another comrade, we all felt like there was just something that opened in a very magical way. And so it really does, it goes beyond words to be able to put words to exactly what it was that opened inside of ourselves that we hadn't quite experienced before. It was very much about our coming together in a humble way to invite the sort of master water spirit to come and inform us and share this reciprocity. And I think that was one of the biggest things, was really this energy of reciprocity that we all felt coming from. And there's a lot doing a lot of things in watersheds all over the planet, and that's really so. And so part of me is really trying to look at what could we add that is missing. What could we add that more than anything, right? We provide that thing that we, just trim tab that, that you all familiar with from a trim, and it's a very small piece of vessel, and it's one small piece chart the course, and it really is a subtle. The trim tab is so subtle, it's this big ocean going vessel, and the trim tab just a degree, and a big boat turns, and it's just that's what I'm and how to, and our capacity. We're all doing so much, and it's all important, no one piece is more important than the other. So really looking at that, trying to look at that of what we provide, not yet, would really, I already feel it's happening. That's the beauty of it, is that there's so much happening that I already see as part of it. So it may just be as simple as gathering in this space and hold them together, or it's creating a portal every wisdom or organization where we're going out and doing trainings. It's really trying to listen to what it is that water wants from us right now. So I really honor Jay for inspiring this movement um, into that concept of water unity. And to me, that's the heart of it. Is how do we come together? How do we bring our water? How do we create that symphony of vibrational frequencies within water that allows our infinite diversity to thrive? Yeah. So Jay, do you want to take up the bowl?
Sure. To unmute. Okay, I'm unmuted. Are you guys able to hear me pretty well? I'd have a little crickling here and there, but okay. So in the in the notes, I'm gonna post kind of the list of some of what I would think that is important. I want to make sure we cover the concept of water unity, or at least my perception of it, which is that well, actually, I'll back up even further. Like, if the question is, are we interested in creating an organization or not, then that leads to a bunch of other questions. One question is, where are we now? What has happened that got us to this point? And part of that is making sure there's clarity between water unity and anything else that we did. So I'm going to focus on that. If we get beyond that, then there's questions in terms of just what is an organization, what would it even mean to create one, and then just there's a bunch of questions that we would want to go through and understand the process and things like that. So going back to just like the starting point of what are we even talking about in relationship to where we are now and what has happened, in terms of just there's a lot that I could cover, but just to focus on the most crucial aspects. One is the concept of water unity, and the other one is obviously just my role. For me, water unity comes from this concept that me and Elizabeth ran with when we connected. I guess it was the second time, and that was or first or second time, and then that was basically like was just described, bringing and connecting all of the water groups together and resonating and breathing together and grounding together and really building that sense of connection and movement that I had never heard before. Like, I knew about water in its context of sustainability and environmental justice and all that, but I never really heard about it in the context of just direct movement of water for water with water. And that's very, very powerful, and it's in the relationship to water law, water rights, and specifically water sovereignty. It makes sense, and it is, and the fact that it just has to happen. So for me, water unity and the water unity portal that I have drafted really doesn't need organizational development, and everything we already have is more than enough. And we don't actually need to come together that often. It could be, a few times a year even, or connecting with existing events, or just hitting up some of the planetary sessions, or maybe all of them except for Mercury. I mean, Mercury happens only every month and a half. It's quite often. So with that said, the for me, water unity is just very proliferary and flow. Like, it just happens because we are all interested in it already. In the context of my interest in my role, I'm happy to help with water unity as far as the portal goes, and in supporting whatever can come out of it. And I'm interested in water in general and being a water steward. In terms of my role in being directly involved internally with groups, my role is in my mission with the Unity Network and all the work that I have done for my life is building new economic, decision making, and educational infrastructures. And in building those infrastructures, it's very, very organizational. It is not necessarily fun. It's a lot of work. It typically involves budgets, and it is what I do. And I work with a lot of organizations, and I help them set up organizations. So for me, the concept of setting up an organization is twofold. One, it would be separate from Water Unity, and from there, whatever the organization would be, it can be as defined or as undefined as the group is interested in doing. So what that would mean is that the purpose of an organization could simply be, okay, we have $1,000. How are we going to decide how to spend the money? And that's it. That could be literally the only purpose of the organization is literally just to spend $1,000 budget or $10,000 or to fundraise or whatever. But then, of course, like was implied here, you could also have an organization that has a specific purpose and a specific mission. And the only thing I would say is that, and we do have clear options, like there's the different types of obviously channeling and water sovereignty and connecting in the voice of water. The wisdom council, watershed councils across the world, the framework of building that, the education of building that. So there's at least 4 or 5, even more different subsets to potential purpose that we could define more clearly. But what I'm trying to get at is that when you create an organization, especially an organization that's based on people and or representation in any sort of democratic model, it can change with a simple decision, right? So you can create a purpose, but then that purpose, a year later, a week later, or whatever, can change simply with a proposal or a decision, however the group decides to make decisions. So for me, the main question in terms of whether or not we want to create an organization are we even ready for an organization? Is there interest in that? It's kind of like, in essence, and this goes into the next question, which is, what is an organization? What does it mean to create one? And it's kind of like, having a child. It creates a mind of its own. It's like you're taking care of it. It's evolving. It takes time, especially depending on your decision-making model. Consensus is the best decision-making model because it builds the most cohesive group, but it also takes the most time. Majority vote is the simplest democratic model, but of course it can fracture and make things more difficult later down the road. So with that all said, if there's not necessarily interest in the act of even doing the organizational framework, the purpose in the details of what the organization may or may not do is almost secondary. So, but I do understand that in terms of the question of what does it take to approve the creation of an organization, some people may require and want the purpose to be in there before they are ready to approve everything else. So I won't go into the details of some of these other things, but I can speak back to them maybe on another round or as needed or whatever. But that's for me just kind of where I'm coming from, and happy to hear where we are from there.
I guess the other big thing is for me, but I guess that's to the point. None of those has.
It's 10:45.
Came to. I said. Coming down, there's huge storms off the coast and starting up all pipelines again. Well, he was supposed to have a rally in Florida today and a rally in New Hampshire, and water canceled.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jim. relate, Elizabeth, when you say it's, your primary motivation or momentum has stayed the same. Very true for me. Sovereignty, bringing water's voice to the table, partnership, conscious, real, living, active partnership with water. And I live in this space. I've been living in it for more than a decade, and I am only a small child in terms of how much I know about this. And as we've experienced together, as you spoke to yesterday, Elizabeth, and the rising tide, I'm very familiar with once we invite and water, capital W, and or specific bodies come into the massive unifying, life-giving energy into the conversation, everything changes, everything opens, and all of a sudden vision and ways of flowing and being are available that weren't even necessarily there before. And I'm a live artist and an incarnator. So my focus very, very clearly, and has been for a long time, is with the Water Council. And that is a general term. I've seen global water councils. I've seen watershed councils. So I don't have any attachment one way or the other to what or how. It's simply that there are water councils. And to hi Dana, specific a council which has in the moment representation by specific bodies of water who are either relevant to where the council is happening, relevant to an issue that is before the council or before the world at that time. So it's a fluid relationship as to who and which aspects of water, and that comes from that place of deep listening. So in terms of this question, of organization or not organization, I'm definitely someone who I work from the ground up. What I mean by that is I desire to create water councils like we even had on the call last weekend. The Water Council that is a co-creative partnership with water, in my understanding, is only something that can be discovered. So I'm really interested in forming with a group who actually wants to explore what does a fully co-creative water council look like with humans and water. And it's not to be the one, but it is to explore what are all the different ways that this can look like, happen. And my sense is there's a multiplicity. Just as our own unique connections with water are unique, as everybody of water is unique, etc. So there's never, in my mind, going to be definable, but I desire to be a part of a team exploring this real life concept of actual co-creative partnership. I'm very, very interested in so I guess just to get back to the organizational piece, I'm very much in one of those where it's purpose and vision, and then what's the shape of the structure that needs to accommodate that. And I also hear that there is another way to do it, where there's an agreement and a structure is created that can be flexible in terms of its purpose, can change and evolve. But I definitely require a felt connection experience of a something, and then when I see a need or a need arises for the more formalized instruction structure, then an organization is created. I also just want to say that I follow for myself what excites me, what open space, where do I get excited, where does the flow happen, and that's where I go. And so as I've already said, the living reciprocity, love and respect, the daily interaction with water and connection with water, all the different ways. I mean, I have these tools. I haven't been sharing them very much. I'm now more inspired to help facilitate, help create these spaces in which each person's living connection with water and how the water in their body and water will guide them to act, and in what way is what I would like to support. I also concur or resonate, Elizabeth, when you talked about, it's what is that's being called for? Where are the spaces, or where are the gaps? What is that? So for me, that's also a beautiful meta question that I've been musing on, and I know that Water Council in general is the thing that is calling me, and that's a co-creative water and human partnership, living, active, decision-making partnership, consultative, whatever, creative, etc. So that's what I have so far.
I'd like to welcome Dana. Nice to have you here, and invite us just to take a minute to connect our hearts to Dana's heart. Feel her. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I just want to say I've been involved full on in this harmonic convergence event. That's a 10-day event going on. I'm facilitating the discussion rooms in the evening, and I'm trying to follow the whole thing during the day so that I can be a good facilitator in the evening. So I'm just kind of popping in. Today is like really full for me. And I may actually be presenting in the discussion room in the evening as well. Not totally sure yet, because it all is like being played a bit spontaneously. So if I need to leave, it's just because I have a lot going on at the moment that I wanted to just pop in and
we are
experience, what's going on with.
Yeah, we are recording, and in the chat there's some notes. There's a link to a Google Doc that Jay set up for notes, so you can copy that link and you can come back to that at any time.
Maybe put it in again. Put it in again, because the chat renews every time a new person comes on.
Yeah,
I got it.
We're essentially sort of looking at the primary question before us is to really what is water asking us to bring forth now? Is it an organization? Is it just a network? Is it just a group of conversationalists? Is it ceremonialists holding space? And just trying to open it up a little bit with what something very powerful asked to be formed. Really, when Jay and I and with the World Unity Water Day and the open sessions on that day, that something emerged, and now we're needing to really look at what is emerging. And how does it want to manifest? Yeah. So if you want to speak to that while you're here with us, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I know just from the communications, and I wasn't at the last meeting on the Sunday either, but I know there's been discussion of creating an organization around water, around all the aspects of water that we're interested in or connected to. Is that on the table right now, creating such an organization?
Mm-hmm.
And considering, because I think this group brings a lot of higher dimensional perspectives on water, as well as our, regular perspectives on water. So including those aspects, because there isn't so much representation of water on those levels yet, especially in like formal bodies. So I think that's a good idea. I'm not quite sure because I don't know much else about what you've outlined in terms of like the structure of such an organization or even what it would do exactly yet. But
I'm part of Loving Waters, which our mission and purpose is just that, to bring the sacred relationship. And so we're sort of looking at what is missing in, there's a lot of different organizations, and part of the World Unity portal was to try to connect, just simply be a portal for organizations to be able to come and connect with other organizations and build a basically planetary database of people dedicated for the behalf of water. So that's sort of one aspect that came out, and then the other is there anything else? Because the portal's pretty, it's pretty. I wouldn't say it's exactly simple, because it will need to be managed to a degree, but it has a very defined purpose, right? And the other is there something greater around the Watershed Wisdom Councils that is actually needing some kind of infrastructure to help hold it and guide it. And Jay's point is that sort of the organization of any entity is really secondary to the purpose of that. And I may be paraphrasing you wrong. It's not quite what you were saying, but yeah, but that it can change. That it can evolve. That the organization can evolve. So it's not like if we make a decision today, it's set in stone and that's it. It will evolve as the purpose evolves. And I think one of the purposes that we have right now is just really connecting ourselves as water faithful, and others that come, and people will come and they will go, but really being able to be supported in our work. That we're all doing our specific work, and how do we, what do we need as a group that will help support us? So I just added that bit kind of to my share, and I'd like to welcome Arignani and Aragon. Hello, lovelies. It's nice to see your names on the screen. We have some notes in the chat if you want to open that up and maybe catch up with what we've already shared so far. And present yourself.
Awesome, thank you.
Just what you said, Elizabeth, reminded me of my idea of possibly calling this thing the water connection, because we're like, it's bringing a connection to the people who are interested and passionate about water, and it's also about connecting to water. So I just want to re-propose that as a possible name for the organization or initiative, the Water Connection.
Thank you.
So, are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I have my voice is on the phone. My picture is on the computer, because my computer sound wasn't coming out well. Yeah, we'd love to hear more from Ariane and Erdogan, as well as Dana and everybody. The two things that came up for me was one, what are some of the gaps, right, that are coming, that we want to potentially fill? And the other question is, like, it just comes back to this, what has happened and where are we now, and what is going on? So for me, the concept of the water connection and the concept of water unity and the idea of the portal, like, for me, that is very clear. It's defined and it's happening, and it's not going to stop happening. And if we wanted to, we could create an organization around that. But the purpose of that organization would be to network water organizations and groups. So if you think about it, whether it's the Unity Network or World Unity Week or the World Watershed or the World Water Law Group, and the open sessions for water law. I mean, there's a lot of organizations doing that work, right? Do they have a water portal? No. Is it open to everybody? No. So water unity is necessary for two reasons. One, it creates the only open, completely interactive water portal that I know of, right? There's no other place anybody can just go and put something on the water schedule. So as far as I'm concerned, the portal that we have co-created and is still in its infancy is accessible and open to anybody to put water events on, and they can be vetted and all that kind of stuff. But basically, it's completely open, and that is what's so hard to find, because most organizations are very focused on themselves and create a lot of barriers to involvement and engagement and connecting to their connections, right? So coming back to the other gap that's being filled, the work that I do in terms of organizing is almost exclusively, well, I help any organization do whatever they want to, right? But the work that I personally focus on is bottom-up, open, full, direct empowerment, of all, right? That everybody is engaged and involved and brought in, including any and all species, including water, including everyone. So for me, the concept of bringing water to the table is just automatic. It's not even of question because of my principles and my values. A lot of organizations you would go to, and we could even look at Loving Waters as an example, have many layers and or barriers to engagement and involvement. And so it doesn't have to be something that we do. If there is another organization that I would be invited to, or that we can invite anybody in the world to, that would meet that goal. But as of now, I don't know any other water organization that is open to the public to get involved. And for me, that's a huge problem, and it needs to be solved, right? Water should be an open invitation, not something that you have to jump through hoops and prove yourself or whatever to deserve that connection with water. So that's just how I feel about that, and that's the work that I do. The other thing that comes together, which is very interesting, I think specifically speaking to some of what Danielia has said, and obviously I've heard from Elizabeth and others, is that water councils and the concept of water councils, which again is very different than the water connection, the portals, and just connecting all the organizations. The water councils, almost by definition, are locally based for specific watersheds and specific waterways. So that creates this interesting conundrum where if we were all local and we were all, let's just say, near the Fraser River, since that's one we bring up a lot, if we were all there would be no question about this. We would already be working together in water council if one didn't exist. If there was already a water council, we would try to support it. If there wasn't a water council, it would be instantaneous, and we would all form that water council, and we would begin whatever we needed to do. We would work and talk with the river, and if the river needed support and need things that required us to have resources, whether it's money or whatever, boom, we would do it, right? It's just not of question. What is of question in this particular situation is that it's not local. We're talking about a global or a local interaction of people all around the world to support and build a framework of water councils potentially everywhere. And so that brings up this conundrum where if we decided to create an organization, and if we decided that organization to be a global one and invite people all across the world, possibly in multiple languages, what would it do and how would it be in relationship to local watershed councils, and would it even be a council, right? Maybe if there was a global organization, maybe it wouldn't even meet the definition of a council. It might actually only be a support organization that would support either the formation or the resources for local councils. So it creates this different conundrum that otherwise we wouldn't have if we were all local. So that's the main things I wanted to mention. Check.
So Elizabeth, thank you, Jay. That was very clarifying and helpful. I see that that the councils are concentric and scalable, and the vision that's been with me for probably up to 12 years now, going on 12 years, is very much linking councils. So I see it more as the mycelial network between the councils, and that I'm on Squirrel Creek, and there's, however, 500 families that all live on Squirrel Creek, and we have specific concerns because there's ranching and cow poop, and whereas in Grass Valley we're still part of the same watershed, but they have different needs because they're a small town and have pavement, and there's other concerns. There's homeless camps and mining camps on their creek, and so each watershed has its specific concerns, but both of us have the concern of mercury being in our water from the mining days. And so we all come to, and so I see it as really in the schematic of a watershed that these local councils each have a plenipotentiary that moves forward or downstream in the watershed. So at the end, you still have a council of 12, but it's representing the entire, in San Francisco Bay, it's representing, and it might not be 12 at that point. It might need to be one from every single branch, watershed branch that dumps into the bay. And each will bring its individual concerns with that aggregation. So that's been my thought in terms of the councils is that yes, they are fundamentally local. We're standing on our own watershed and planting our flag and saying, this is my watershed, I'm going to care for it. But it's also knowing that we're all connected by our water, and the Pacific Ocean. And then there does need to be a global, if there's a world water law, there needs to be some kind of citizen organization from the roots up, not from the presidents down, right? It really does need to come up from the roots through this system of aggregation, through the mycelial network of wisdom. And so that's, to me, how I've seen this schematic as it's shown itself to me. How do I, sitting on Squirrel Creek, make that happen? The best way I know how is to keep talking about it and keep these efforts going. And it was this schematic that inspired me to start the Water Awake Network, and then inspired me to work with Shelley and Julie Armstrong in Australia to birth the Loving Waters, and now it's and Loving Waters has been working for about 5 years, building ourselves, creating ourselves into what we want as a council. And we are a council, we act as a council. And so there can also be virtual councils, right? It doesn't, if there's a specific need that can come up, then a sort of impromptu or temporary council can be formed, a working council, so to speak. But that there's a method to the councils in terms of what if our local water boards started water with inviting the spirit of their watershed to be in the conversation? There you go. There's a council right there, right? So it's really that partnership that Denley is talking about that is what's missing. In terms of looking at what's missing, really that invitation to work in sacred partnership with the sovereignty of water is, I think, something that's missing. So part of that is education. and it may be, the White Otter and Loving Waters and the Circle here on Watershed, that these other organizations can be part of the education aspect, but who's educating them, right? So it's how do you go to your local water board and say, so speaking of which, Mia asked us to bring in her watershed. She wants it called in.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
please.
when we come to it's the Waiapuna spring water, and it is Waiapuna. It's a spring that is free and open, available to all. That it is nourishing the watershed. It's really nourishing. Oh my God, I'm getting chills right now. Thank you. Thank you, Waiapuna. Oh, I'm about to cry. Oh, that's a mighty powerful spirit there. Whoa. Ooh. It's hard to describe what rush I just got there. It was
for me,
Elizabeth, I would say that's its response to.
Yeah, it was its response. So I'm just translating.
Yeah,
and the water in your eyes. That's often its way of going. Thank you.
It's the uprising, but it was more than just that. It was something else. It was like, okay, you found me. It's like, now you found me. Now we're ready. Okay, it's like it was a huge response.
Like for me, why am I getting? No, it's okay.
Yeah, we're here.
For me, it's just so powerful and so deep to the resonancy of what I am so passionate about, which is this concept of free and open to all, and just how accepting water is. When I see and I feel and I connect to water, and really everything environmental, everything of nature, all ecosystems, they are completely open. They do not close off. You can go and you can destroy and attack and even kill, and they're still open, and they still love, and they still bring care. And that's what I don't see in human societies. That's what I don't see in our structures of decision making. There's so many barriers. There's so many closed models, and I love that beauty and that invitation. Check.
Yeah, and proprietary. We're getting feedback from somewhere. Yeah. We're all concerned about ownership. And it really came from the destruction of the commons in the 11th century in England, where basically they said, no, this land does not belong to the people, to the life of this place. It belongs to me. And with the destruction of the commons, all sorts of destruction of our communities began. And the reason I was drawn to open up this email and call in Waiapuna was that Mia also spoke about a friend of hers who's running for the state house on the island, and she's getting into politics, and she's very ready to support this approach to water. So, how do we aggregate our judgment as humans? And that's like the secondary aspect, is protecting water, but also aggregating our wisdom and judgment as humans. So when in Hawaii a person is stepping forward to get into the very challenging role of a public servant at the highest level of politics, and is saying, I'm standing for the sovereignty of water, that the whole network can support them in just knowing that they have that behind them. We think about Black Lives Matter and how that's changing, because they're connected. They're now connected. They've this particular group has connected the world. And so that's what I'm feeling is the uprising is, you know, I meant to ask her friend's name, so we'll just, me as friend who's running for state house, we bring her into her spirit into this, and if she is truly standing for the sovereignty of water, that she receive all the support she needs from Waiapuna and from all the other water bodies on her island, and the rain falling from the sky and the ocean that surrounds them, and you know that we're able to really efficiently reach critical mass with this change that we know that is happening. It is happening. But so thank you, Waiapuna, for those impulses that I hope I've translated properly. And that goes, you know, that goes to the next step with what Jay has spoken on before, is the difference between a network and a movement, right? And the difference between a movement, a network, and an organization, and just you know, a collection of conversing souls, you know. And I'm feeling motivated to inspire in the world a movement, and knowing that a movement is only sustained by a network, and networks are only pertinent because there's organizations, and the organizations only work because we're coming together as communing souls, and the communing souls are only activated when we come together. So I'm seeing the whole thread, and I'll go wherever I'm called, but I also have to acknowledge my own capacity, and knowing that that as myself sitting here on Squirrel Creek, there's only so much that I can, and I mean, I'm willing to do anything, but what can I do? And what do I have capacity for within, you know, taking care of my mother, and taking care of my garden, and taking care of my Airbnb, and taking care of, you know, everything else. So that's why we need networks, is so that we can sort of funnel this spirit of water, big W, everywhere. You know, that the purpose of a flood, you know, we are a rising tide. It's like a tide brings nutrients. A flood brings nutrients to the earth. We think of floods as being disastrous, but we only have the Sacramento Valley, you know, 20 miles from my home, because it used to flood, because the Yuba used to be able to flood, and the Stanislaus used to be able to flood, and the Sacramento, you know, that these floods happened, and the richest soil on the planet has come from these floods, and we've stopped that, and now our soil is no longer, you know. So that brings up another question: is, you know, what can be done, like just a simple campaign of encouraging people to write water as a capital W. You know, it's that's so simple, and yet it is. Water is the capital W. If our own proper names, if I capitalize my name, like I'll often capitalize water, but give my own self a small e. So that's one thing. The Great Planetary Water Cleanup, you know, just, you know, okay, we have 10 years, you know, scientists have told us that the oceans are in danger of shutting down. Believe it or not, just the fact that science has come to that conclusion is daunting. So that means that we have an imperative, and but the thing that this great planetary pause has shown us is that it won't take much, right? We just step out of water's way, and water will heal herself. It's not like we have to put up big arrays of reflectors to put the, solar radiation back in the sky, and we don't have to mechanize this healing. We just have to stop, pause, and allow water to come back into sovereignty and do what water does. So I think it's all needed, and I'm just wondering, that we've been formed together. Water has created us to create something, and so finding out what's the best thing that will lead to the whole expansion into a global movement in proper timing. So that was quite a flood.
Beautifully said, Elizabeth. Thank you. I have some things I'd love to add, but I want to create space for Danielia because you said you needed to leave soon, and then obviously Ariani and Artigon didn't say anything yet, and there's Jim, so where are we at?
Thanks, Jay. Thank you to the Watershed who came in, to Maya, to Elizabeth for reading the email. Such a perfect example of what happens in that co-creative space. And it's so visceral. It's so visceral when water comes. And it's something that I imagine happening all over all the time once this campaign and I love the idea about, because that for me is a distinction. I'm putting it in my books about this. Water is a sovereign being, and so like our names are capitalized, and so it is too. And yeah, I love that. It's actually a really simple way to introduce the idea of it being a being that has its own voice, etc. Like I put that in declarations, but to actually invite peers, and so I've actually been working in other people's watersheds, bringing them together with their own waters. But now I'm here, and now with COVID and just our own, all of our social distancing thing, I think there's something here around the initiation, the core of us actually working in our own watersheds, like literally. Yes, I love that we this idea of a global network that supports local ones. I really love that. That excites me a lot and feels very tangible. And there's something immediate around working in our own watersheds, and it has to do with the fact that we are embodied water people, and so our connection with where we actually are geographically and the waters around us is an innate, inherent, and powerful connection that is already there. We're just bringing it into greater consciousness and into action. So I just, there's something here for me about the local. And then the other piece I would really like to offer this distinction for consideration. I hear the phrase, water asks me, water's leading us, water is this, and water can be and is those things. My experience is water is very interested in co-creative, equal partnership. It's not more intelligent or less, more wise or less, because the wisdom that we as individual human beings brings, water can't bring that. Water isn't that. Only we as humans can bring the piece forward that only humanity can. And David Spangler said something when I was at Findhorn that helped me. It helped me in the judgment of myself as humanity, but it also clarified that in order for me to fully partner with nature, which is my goal, my lived experience and continual goal, I need to become fully human. And so this is, I believe, I believe, it's not even really a belief, it's my experience. Water actually is so pervasive, it isn't a one voice, leading us, that even that perception is a little bit limited. So I guess what I'm saying is the languaging, my experience is that we are always working together. So it's actually a we. that water, capital W, and me, and the individuals, we're a we. And I'm so integrated with my river and, the 45 beings that I've been, we are a we. And at different times, their voice will pop up with more articulation or clarity. But as time goes by, they're so integrated in me that we, water bodies, are working and moving forward together. So I hope I've been clear in that there's even a separation when we say water is telling me, because then it puts water in this position as like the leader and the boss, and that's not my experience of water's way at all. It is this bottom up, everybody welcome, that Jay talks about. It's the living example of as inside, so outside. And so let's bring ourselves fully forward as water beings, because we have a wisdom that's a lived wisdom and an embodied wisdom that actually water doesn't have, so it needs us. Does that make sense?
Yes, Daniela.
Dedalia.
I know.
Thank you for considering that.
In consideration is that we are water. So we are water expressing. How can we not be? If 99% of the number of molecules are water, then we are water wisdom. And when we can get out of our own way and just sink into that communion and knowing and relationship, that's where we're connected to all the water. And so it very much is a we, an us, all together. And that's the unity consciousness that we can tap into with water. Yeah. And it's, it is very much that. So I hear what you're saying in terms of language, and I see so much of what we can really offer is in fact adjusting our language and finding, like I woke up the other morning with this, this after, I think it was after a previous rising tide session, people saying it goes beyond language, and very often I'll get my messages from that unity consciousness of water just as I'm coming from dream time into waking, and there'll be a phrase, and I call them my dream bites, instead of sound bites. They're just little things that come in. And this one said, if you don't have the language, invent it. Right? So it's really finding
really bad lighting.
Yeah, finding the language, and even making up words if we need to, to really bring this consciousness to, and have contests who can make up the best word, right? What meme, and really play into that connectivity of internet, and start putting memes out and seeing how they get picked up and how they travel around the world, and be an influencer and all that funny stuff that's so far out of my generation, but I love it. It's like I've been thinking about this all my life, but haven't had the near zero cost mass coordination tool of the internet available. So that is, and now with how people of sort of this unity consciousness are now coming together, we have networks within networks within networks. But even, I sent an email to Mark Sims, and I said, Mark, because I've met Mark, I know him, and I've had conversations with him, and I just said, Mark, nowhere on your on your website have you held water. You haven't invited water. That's basically what they said. You need to invite water to the table. Nowhere in your website and maybe it's shifted now, but when I first read it, I said, no, it's like you need to have a session, because none of this matters if we don't correct our own relationship to water. So, Dave, yeah.
I saw your post on his Facebook page that basically said that. And I should just mention there was a Native American speaker from the Lumi Nation the other day who talked about water quite a bit in those terms. And he's invited a lot of indigenous and Native American speakers representing different tribes. And at least in a couple of them, but I remember especially that one from the Lumi Nation, it went into this whole thing about water and water as a consciousness and how they understand it to do that. And you can probably find her talk on the Unify past live videos.
Well, and what I said is that, go ahead, sorry.
I think it was the day on nature, but I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
It was one of the previous days.
And I said, you have many speakers that will speak to water, but this invitation that you're putting out to the cosmic beings, my personal intuition is that they're not going to come down until we get ourselves, and that's what we're working on, is that we need to get ourselves in alignment with our creation and with water. And so, this is what this council has really grounded or dropped in the pool for me, is really the invitation for water, that partnership, that full-on partnership. And if we have anything that's distinct for our group, to really make that sort of the core of it. And there's so many campaigns that can be birthed from that simple premise. And that just really came into me right now. That just really came in really strongly. Is thinking about that, and what Mark has pulled together is remarkable. And when I met with him, he shared, and I would like to think that I had some small influence, because he was sharing this vision that he had with his guide, and I'm sure you're familiar with that, Dana, and how frustrated that he had been holding this for so long, and he didn't know how to bring it out into the world. And I said, just listen, you'll figure it out, and just trust and do it. You've been called to do this. So what does it look like? Ask yourself what it looks like. And we talked about water then. So it seems like he got the message. He listened and he got the message and created something really incredibly beautiful. Right.
Nice.
Hi, this is Arnyani and Adrigan, and we too noticed that there hasn't been any water with Mark and some other things as well. And to me, that just speaks volumes without saying words. Water's essential, especially during New Earth. I mean, we've forgotten our connection with water. And the thing that really kind of surprised me is he stands up for Standing Rock, but the water consciousness was Standing Rock. It was the voice, and it was standing up for the sacred, pure, clean waters, and why we didn't want to put pipelines in, and standing up in solidarity for that. So standing up for water sovereignty. And water, unfortunately, is put on the back burner because most people don't drink living water. And there's a real consciousness to water. So if you don't drink living, conscious, fully embedded, coherent water, then you are drinking either still water or water that has been compromised. And we're getting more science and research and proof with our water company, and expanding really quickly. We're very, very blessed. Like today, we've been working on water all day, getting it to people, selling it. And you know, it is something really amazing when you take water. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Adrian because some of the things he's been working with water are pretty amazing. And yeah, so I was just going to let you share what experience you had with water before we brought the water to Timothy today, Earth Fair, and just the message that you got from water when you were embedding.
Yeah, I had a very interesting breakthrough with water today, and was doing some dowsing and had a really strange, like I was seeing I was seeing two pendulums. It was really weird. There was my pendulum, and then there was like the after image of my pendulum, and I'd never seen that before. And it was like this like quantum ghost image. And I was watching like this ghost of my pendulum go around after my pendulum, and I was like, this is really, really, really weird. What's going on? And I had this whole like communion with water, and while energizing water, we'd only be able to reach about 760K on Bovis scale on a 0 to 1 million scale. And today, I tested the water after I had this experience, and I really was really working with the conscious water, and I removed the spirit of the greed from the water, and I took out all of that, or my higher self and subconscious did that, and invited in the spirit of the water because of a download we had the other night about how when you first start working with water, you need to clear out all the negative energy, and then re-invite the spirit of water in which then you thank it 3 times and you tell it you love it, and then the water is ready to truly be worked with, and then you can restructure it and start charging it like a battery, and put all the healing frequencies in it, all the positive intentions, and it's limitless. It's only limited if you believe it's limited. Mm-hmm. You can put as much energy, as much healing vibes, as much good intentions as water as possible, and because water is connected to the quantum holographic field, you can put all this in water and people will get exactly what they need. Like if you put all the chakra frequencies in water and you're putting out all these energies in water, whatever they have an imbalance is what their body will take from it on that quantum holographic level, and that's what will embed into them. And so what happened after I did this was I was measuring the life force energy of the water, and it maxed out the scale. So it was like at 1 million. So I was like, oh, okay, I need to use the bigger scale. So I used the expanded scale. Instead of 0 to 1 million, I used the 0 to 100 billion scale for the Bovis. And I was thinking, you know, it's just going to be like a little bigger, right? Like it's probably, you know, I wasn't expecting anything big. And I tested it, and instead of 760K, it was 33 billion on the Bovis scale. And I was like, wait, what? And I was so confused because that was so much, it's just astronomically higher what we'd ever been able to reach before. We've had other dowsers also affirm what levels and life force energies that we reached. And 33 billion from 780,000 or 760,000 is just insane. And I'm going to have to start working with the E scale so that, because it doesn't really have a limit, I'm going to have to learn how to do that. But there's the huge breakthrough with working with the spirit of the water and calling that in, first clearing anything negative, then also, you know, for the water councils and the watershed, I got the download that, you know, we should have like, because we're all going to be connected in a network, mycelium network anyway. So there's going to be like this knowledge base where, I mean, I think each person, each watershed, there should be at least one person who either knows or is taught to douse. And so we can teach people how to douse, because what they can do is they can go to their watershed and they can douse out what heavy metals are in it, what toxins are in it. We can douse out everything about the water, and then we can start doing ceremony with the water, and we can start praying with the water together at the councils. Base method for clearing and inviting the spirit back into the water.
And Raymond Grace is an amazing dowser. He actually was part of our Appalachian chapter of dowsers, and he was the one that came out with the Bovis scale. And he's just very straight and to the point. He was a southern good old boy who's like, you guys limit yourself to doing this. This is all available in the quantum field. So check out Raymond Grace. He really makes it like, you know, something that is doable, that we can alchemize and balance and harmonize our water. And the whole download that I've been getting is about being human, HUE, man, manifestation, themes, resonators. all we are is a frequency. Like Tesla says, if you wish to understand the codes of the universe, think about energy, frequency, and vibration. So there's the 369. So you shared with them information about these, different chakra alignments with the 369, 963, and all the different like arrangements. Like we were talking last night, we have a frequency water called love, and it is the heart chakra. And we were talking about, is it the five? Well, let's talk about the 528 and the frequency of love and water, like we were talking about yesterday, because what we learned from Missy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. If you look on the internet and you're looking like what frequency to lock and what chakras, you'll find two different charts. And it's pretty evenly split what people believe. About half the people believe that the heart chakra is 528, and the other half believe the heart chakra is 639. And it's really interesting. There's just this split, and it's like, well, where did anyone come up with any of those answers? And I always thought it was 639 because the root chakra is 396. So the heart is the light center, it's the middle, right? So that would be 639, and then the crown is the 963. Which is what I always thought, but then we were doing some dowsing and we called some dowser friends of ours, and because we live in a holographic universe, in a quantum holographic universe, in a quantum unified field, and our thoughts affect reality on a quantum level, and not only make our reality, our personal reality, but help co-create the collective harmonic reality. That because people were split, and some people think it's 528, some people think it's 639, that each answer individually, neither of them were fully right. Both of them were partially right. But the real answer is that they're both together.
And this is how you alchemize water. And somebody's asking, how does this relate? This totally relates. If we were to douse out the water, if you were to go to your back and douse out the Bova scale of the water, or just to do simplistic dowsing, like basic dowsing, and you ask if the water is harmonic or if it's detrimental, and if there's any negative green frequencies in the water, you could start off with that. Is it a digital frequency? Is it an analog frequency? Is it conducive to life? Is it detrimental? So this is where you can really dial in, and you can harmonize and balance the water, even in your watershed. So the Raymond Grace technique is something that I totally suggest if anybody is working with the water and they are an alchemist. Like our water is called alchemy water. To work with the alchemy of the water, we ask for permission. I'm a water wah, like kids say wah wah. I'm a water wah moon, water cycles. So that's the message that I got when I was working with the water. That's what I do. So if we understand like how water's connected in our bodies and everything, and how we can alchemize that, then we can really start shifting frequency.
And then also, like, working through the sphere of the water, you can work through a quantum entanglement. You can, since all water is connected and there's that spirit of the water, you can work with your own watershed. And through this quantum entanglement, you can ask that water and the spirit of the water through the work you're doing with your watershed to affect all the water in the entire world. And if we're networking across the entire world and we're all doing it together and we're all keeping track with each other and we're doing this work, you're raising the vibration, our reality will become true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything we're talking about will just happen.
I'm going to jump in here just to honor our time. I just want to thank you for that, because you've given me, I started this call very sad. I had a fallout with my daughter. And I with what you just said, I realized a pathway to help her. Yeah. That I don't need to talk to her, right? Because talking doesn't help. Because she's not listening, she's not hearing me.
Yeah.
And so I really want to thank you for that. Can you put in our chat the link, or at least the name of what you're speaking of, because my memory is like a sieve. It only catches certain things.
We would be happy to. Also, somebody I think asked what the name of our water business is and who we are. You can find us under Alchemy Water, and we'll send that ALC 3HMY Water WAHT3R. So we'll send that as well.
Yeah, just put that in the chat for us, and I'll save the chat and then send it to us all. But I would like us to focus. Jay, you have something to say? I would like to focus on really what's next, for us. And I'm feeling really that if we create the portal, and yes, it's simple, but we can put campaigns on the, we can put blogs, we can put ideas, we can fill the portal, and then once it's like I couldn't do Waterway Network until I got Loving Waters and got myself connected to this conversation of our sacred relationship with water and learned myself about it. And I honor Mark, and I'm not in any, what I'm saying is in no way judgment. And I just gave him a simple invitation, right? And put that into the field. And because no, no, it's like it's being created in this process. All of us, right? And so what I would like to suggest is that we just kind of put the Watershed Wisdom Councils kind of on the shelf for now, or in the eddy, that it'll keep spinning around. But to put our attention into really making the water portal something just beautiful and dynamic. And you can go to .life and kind of see it's beginning to form there, but that we can expand it and so and create it more of a social network that there's that forth in terms of communications and conversations. And I mean, what we have is just basically a website, and we invite people to post their thoughts and their artwork and so forth, and then I'll post it. But it's not as efficient as what we're seeing for the water portal. And I think that once we build the water portal, then it will be so much easier to create the water councils, because we'll have brought that languaging and that and the and just the visual art images, and the I mean, so much can be communicated in an incredible, like Dana, you're mentioning that art on the wall. There's so much that's communicated right there with no words, and that's part of inventing the language, is inventing the symbols and the images. So it would be my suggestion for what's next for us, is to really start thinking about how that water unity portal can really be brought into the social network of humanity in a way that really works. And right now it's just a draft, and I'm willing to kind of stand up and work with Jay in terms of the technical creation of it, and making sure that everything works on it. And so I just open it up as to have everybody put in their thoughts. World Water is doing an open space session. And would love us, as many of us can be there, and it might even be 2 sessions.
Yes, I just wanted to say, yeah, I'd love to support that on the 20th. Sure, if the portal as it's being put through, especially this, the idea of this, the new. I feel very hot about this idea of gathering a group of people who would like to explore real time being on a water council with active water voices as a lived experiment. Yeah. So I would like to pursue that, and again, I'm excited by all these opportunities that are coming up where we can connect with other people who I can connect who are interested in that kind of an experiment, who are already perhaps on the same page, but also it's fabulous to have people who are just like, wow, that's really exciting. I've never done it before, but I'm really excited, because that's enough. And it doesn't matter if we've been doing it for a long time or a short time. We're all equal in the eyes of water and with our water beings. So I would like to say that I would like to continue to move forward with that particular idea of a pilot water council, and I would like to step forward to initiate that.
On a global level?
It's going to be made up of whoever wishes to come forward. So yes.
Global, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interest, time, and openness to this modality is really the qualification.
So. Absolutely thrilled to hear you say that, and I'm all in.
Okay, cool.
Dana, are you needing to step off?
In a bit. I don't have anything right this second to say. I was just copying the links that they were putting in the chat so I could watch them. But I don't have I'm just listening at this point.
Beautiful, thank you. And you're holding space, so that's.
I've been having a little trouble. Can you guys hear me right now? Why can't I hear you? Oh, weird. All right.
Are you hearing?
Oh yeah, there we go. Now I can hear you. Okay, so, wow, it's just it's amazing. Like the one comment, and then try to get to some house cleaning, and we have scheduling, and we've got some next steps. One comment is just that I feel like connecting with Ariani and Artigon and the alchemy water. I feel like it's going into the current of the river and flowing, and that in my consciousness, connecting in that energy, the only thing that holds us back from implementing whatever we want to is our own inability to imagine it and just do it. Like it can happen. And I feel like it's important to acknowledge and breathe and calm and stay grounded, and go as slow as we want to, but also acknowledge that rivers go at different paces. Different parts of waters. You could have two molecules of water start in one part of the river and completely end at the ocean, months apart. It's like there's no guarantee of that they would arrive anywhere at the same time. And so how can you create a framework and a space that allows for concurrent conscious evolution, potentially at different speeds and different goals and different everything, right? So I think that's one component of it. I am, a huge fan of all of the above, which obviously isn't possible, but prioritizing. It's like, okay, let's take all these ideas, let's prioritize them, what bubbles to the top, and then boom, we just focus and work on whatever bubbles to the top. But that would be decision making. That's what decision making is. It's prioritizing and agreeing as an organization or a group of people that we're not all just going to do what we want to do. We're going to take the time to find out what all of us collectively want to do the most and achieve something first, and then go on to whatever is next. So just to throw out there, and then I'll jump into the scheduling in the next steps. I am perfectly capable and will. Oh, actually, before I say this, when I heard Elizabeth talk about the Sacramento River and the Sacramento and the Bay Area and the Delta coming out, what I heard was that each creek can have it's a watershed and a watershed council, and then they kind of connect together. And then when you come to the Sacramento and the San Joaquin and have all these even greater rivers coming together and having even more energy and power in sovereignty, in essence, that by the time it gets to the ocean, you may have an even bigger context of what is in unison with common needs and common values. And so for me, in what I see, that is simply no different than connecting and coming together in unison as one single ocean, because we can call ourselves Earth, but really we're more ocean than Earth, right? I mean, you could even change the planet to the name Water with capital W for all we would really intensive purposes in our concern. But the idea is that if every single watershed and every single tributary comes out either to a lake or to the ocean, connecting them all across the entire ocean is simple and easy in framework. The models that we bring with the Unity Network and the work that I've been doing for decades allow for transformative and completely open, completely bottom-up models of conscious collaboration and decision-making through holographic and multi-dimensional systems of understanding, where you can build entire global networks and representation models, and then whoever shows up to do whatever council on whatever day can hold that space for everyone, and you can immediately engage in representing all water and all watersheds simultaneously with the open invitation of anyone who wants to come. It's kind of an and both model where you can do both simultaneously, the bottom up and just the direct representation of all. So anyways, there's so many options that can be considered and brought forward if it's allowed to be presented and played with and experimented with. So in terms of just next steps, we have the scheduling. The Mars session is on August 3rd. And that whole week, in the Mercury session happens right after it on the 6th. So if we want to continue with the planetary sessions, those are the next two sessions, and they at night. So it would give more people a chance if they're in the middle of the night, etc. And then the other component is that for me, the questions that could be asked, and I feel if we go the direction that Elizabeth was talking about in terms of purpose, I mean, we can list some of the possible purposes, but we can create what I call a network organization, which means the purpose of the organization is to support the network, and then anything else would be its own organization, right? So that is definitely an option. So some of the general questions, if we wanted to create an organization, and again, why create an organization? Have and build resources, whether it's 700,000 or million or billions or 33 billion or whatever. It's like speed and making things go faster, but in the context of, and it's also building recognition. Organizations build recognition, which is so important towards building sovereignty. Are we ready? So come to the questions: are we ready to consider creating an organization? Do we really want to even create an organization? Are we ready to create an organization? Then it's like listing all the different types of purposes that we might want to be prioritizing. So I'd be willing to put a voting form together and ask all the people who weren't here if we wanted to move that, or I'm also very comfortable in just waiting till the next session to continue this discussion, because I feel it's very fruitful and we are making a lot of progress. Check.
I think, and also all of the above. So I'm personally ready to start an organization, at least starting to explore how we do that, and the options. And it's not that we're going to get our small business license tomorrow, right? But it does mean that we're agreeing that that's where we want to go to support the network. I like that idea, that we're not this massive global organization, but that we're the mycelium of the network that's nurturing the connective tissue. That we're nurturing the links. Sure, the work understood. So I love that idea. And I would say that I would say that we can begin now and just say we're moving in this direction. Do you agree? It's not even a vote what kind of organization, but that we are moving forward in this direction and get the agreement of those that have gathered that is that's representative of the water unity group for now, and whatever we can form us into something more solidified as we keep these conversations going. And we are making tremendous progress, so I don't think we'll have to wait that long. Yes.
Could I ask a question? Just in relation to, so we've talked about the portal, a Unity Water portal in which all things that are happening related to water, organizations, blog campaigns, etc., flow through. And then we're talking about an organization to support the portal or the network that's created through the portal. So is one of the option is the organization is created, or the beginnings that begins now, or the other option is you create the portal first and it gets operational.
Well, that's part of it's part of what we need to clarify. And I can see that they could be independent. I could also see that the same organization could support the portal because we still have a degree of cost for that. Is that independent and keep it super simple and neutral? Right. These are things that our conversation will bring out in terms of the agreement of our aggregated judgment.
If I could speak to that quickly, and also Jean, I want to acknowledge Jean joined us.
Thank you.
But just really quickly, since we're just finishing up here, we do have the draft portal. So there is a draft portal that people can already start inputting things, and we have the next, and whatever we decide to do for this group, we can add that. But then we also have the next open sessions with the World Water Law groups. So that's on the portal already, and we can add more. So that's there. Setting up, and really, and the key thing here is that organizations already exist, right? We have World Unity Week, we've got the World Water Law, we've got Loving Waters, we've got Unity Network. So you don't technically need an organization for anything because organizations already exist, and then your group just is dependent on those other organizations for its support and existence. So we wouldn't be here without organizations. There's just no possible way that this group would ever have formed without the support of other organizations with budgets and infrastructure to make it happen. So the question is, if we can continue the portal without an organization, but Elizabeth is mentioning here the interest in an organization specifically to support the network, whether it's like the water connection or whatever we would want to call it. So that particular framework, in one of the models that I use for this going certain directions, it helps to just build the email Google group. It's a button that someone can click to join, and it shows not a vote, but it shows an interest, which can be quantified. So for me, we have a group that's for the councils and the planning group for the councils, and what I would say is we just throw together a Google communication group for what Elizabeth is talking about, specifically a water networking organization that's supporting the portal and supporting the broader goals of connecting people together, and see if there's interest there and see where that may go without trying to overlap that with all the previous work with the planning and the council, because they're really separate things. And then we can see where the priorities lie. And then from there, and I know that's another email group, but don't think of it just like another email group. Just think it kind of almost like a place where people can express interest. And if there are a lot of people join it, then it's like obviously there's a lot of interest. If very few people join it, not as much. Also, if you guys don't want to do another email group, we could create it on a voting form or whatever. So there's other models. But for me, having space for communication about specific things is organization. Trying to lump everything into the same communication streams and all of it overlapping creates a lot of confusion. This is my experience. So in that space, and then from there, I agree with Elizabeth that we're moving towards something, but for me, there isn't agreement on any organization until we know what the defining characteristics of who's represented and who has a vote, and then that group who is empowered votes to approve the organization, right? So there's two steps in that process where if you don't know who's empowered and what the membership is or who has control of the organization, they can't vote to approve the organization. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. Check.
Yes. I would suggest, invite us to think of the experimental water council that
You got it, Danalia.
Danalia, all right, I got it. Danalia. I need my Italian flair. Is suggesting that we create a working council, a working group, and it's the people right now in the Water Unity to just help us understand that whoever comes to that group has maybe not voting rights, but has the ability to contribute and has a voice, and just so we have some sense of and it's, I say that because I want us to move forward in the way that Danalia has expressed, which is in partnership with water. So I see that this is a good start, and I feel like we've already done that. And even though, what is exactly a council in name, it's more in action that we are open as water is, that we are roots up, that we are inclusive to all, and that it is an experiment. So, and that we are working in partnership with water. So, I just invite us to think that we're already, that it's not an either or, that we're already working within that framework, within that identity, and we will get more clear as we go through this experiment, right? And in the doing of, we're creating it. So, I feel that's part of that process, is that this is calling us to create ourselves. In the doing of, we become, we're becoming, and allowing ourselves just to be that, and to say that we are that for now. And it, as Jay says, it will change and it will evolve.
Could I just respond quickly to that proposal in terms of the pilot water council? Yeah, it would be my highest choice that we proceed in any case in partnership. And I would also propose that in a pilot water council, there would be more that we would focus on, in addition to it actively being a working group. So so for example, there's all kinds of personal tracking. Once we bring water into our life in this way, there's lots of ways that it's going to start to show up in our personal lives and on the ground, et cetera, et cetera. And so in learning in a pilot water council that's full co-creative partnership with water, I would sincerely wish that those elements, that's what I see, are part of it. So it's quite a broad experiment, and what you're talking about would be an arm of it that is in active consultation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the main pilot is like the main river exploring this relationship, and then a tributary off of it is here's an on the ground experiment of this, right? So it's another aspect, but not the total.
Right. And all this is still open to dialogue,
Absolutely.
So I do have a couple of responses, but I wanted to see if Jean wanted to jump in first, because we haven't gotten a chance to speak.
Yes, hello, beautiful people. Stewards of water, I feel called through the beautiful energy of Elizabeth that I'm getting to know to be here. I tried dialing in on Sunday. Boy, I got my times all wrong. And today too. But I managed to catch you at the last 5 minutes. So my message, I have just great respect. I really did not make sense yet of all the different organizational things, but I heard co-creation with water, and I feel to tell you that water is adoring you. Water is adoring you, and just
thank you, Jean.
Everything you want.
Yeah, Jean was one of the magical beings on our We Are Rising Tide, and before that in the Pool of Wonder. So she's carrying that. She's come in and she's reinforcing that thread. I told them the story of the wonderment of those two sessions. So you'll see in the chat, Jean, that we have at the very top, there's a couple posts for documents. You can, and I will also post the recording, but there's documents of notes for this session. And I don't know that you're on our Water Unity group, so I will send you an invitation to come into the email group that will keep you informed and connected and together with us. If I have your agreement to do that, yeah. Thank you for coming here. I'm going to get a call here from about 2 minutes from my granddaughter. I've been reading her Winnie the Pooh.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, one comment, and I think we're summing up here. So my comment would be, I fully support anything anyone wants to do, right? My only question is whether or not it's organizational, and it's fine to not be organizational in the context of like there is a type of organization, maybe we need a different name for it, that takes the 5 minutes or 3 minutes to go around and ask each person, do you actually agree? And the answer is either yes or no. And when you do that, it actually reaffirms positive, direct empowerment and consciousness, and it takes a couple minutes, right?
Can we do that now?
I mean, I don't know if necessarily rushing something like that in the final seconds of a meeting is a great place to do that. But the answer is yes, we could. We could technically do that right now if we wanted to. But we can also easily do that on a voting form afterwards. And either way, my point that I'm trying to make in terms of the comment is that in my vision and just trying to step back and see this all together, what I see potentially working, and I have this idea of like, I would call it a global water parliament. Really, it's a global water parliament. It's bottom up, connecting all the oceans together and all of the watersheds together in a framework that we already work with in the Unity Council. When I look at that, it doesn't work. And then I look at what Danielle is proposing. I don't know exactly what this pilot water council model is yet, but in of itself, that would be one component. And that combining that with the work that I have and the ideas that I have in terms of a global water parliament, and then combining it with some of the other existing ideas from some of the other native cultures and other groups, I think we have a winning piece, right? So I think all the pieces are there, and the question is how the best to put that together. And I think that having a session to just learn from Daniela's experience and just here's a pilot model water council. I can write down some of my ideas for this local parliament of water parliament and how it potentially could fuse together, but I can't think about fusing it until I experience Daniela's understanding and version of her pilot water council. So in that context, I feel like both of those things can happen, plus we can get other input from other people and figure out how this could come together. But for me, the most key thing in terms of the long-term framework is the intention. And when you build intention to something, it becomes so powerful and it can become scalable, and that takes a little time of understanding. And right now I just don't understand, which would mean I'm not ready to approve a model, but I am ready to approve a decision making. For example, if we were going to go around and every person gets one vote and it's all equal votes, boom, I'm all about it. And then you have an organization. And I'm also would be able to approve the concept of whether we want organizational representation or individual representation and how that would work in terms of moving places. And I'm also fine waiting on all of that and doing the voting forms. But check as far as the schedule. I mean, I think we should just move forward with the Mars session and then add other things. And we also have this 26th with the open water space, open spaces. So there's just plenty going on. Check, 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 and more check.
Yes, 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 and yes. Yeah, so maybe we can, I can actually check and see if I can hold it off for a few minutes more and just really come to a close, because this has been such a beautiful session. And Danelia, would you like to give us a little closing resonance?
Sure. Mother, Father, God, Creator, Great Spirit, great host of ascended masters, great angelic host, beloved and precious Mother Earth, sacred, wise water, precious breath and air, the fire, our spirit, and the great and mysterious ether. I give thanks and speak to the sacred waters in each of our bodies that has been on this call with us. I give thanks to each of the bodies of water who were called in and were part of our conversation, who informed us. I give special acknowledgement to the watershed who came in and opened and amplified the field of love, showing us how alive we become in our partnership with our human, our water, our all kin who have water inside. We give thanks, beloved, and we invite you to continue to inform us, to inspire us, to help us flow forward in ease and grace. We welcome your purifying qualities to allow those aspects of ourselves which we no longer require in the service of our new humanity. And we thank the consciousness, the wisdom of water to fill those spaces that are vacated with our trust and our understanding that this is what we are designed for. And we who are here forward in our human bodies of water are blessed and are a blessing with each comes through our loving self. So we release all to their own respective businesses and of the day, and just know that we'll welcome you back when we come to reconvene again. All my relations. So.
Thank you. Thank you all for following the impulse and your schedule allowing, your sleep cycle allowing. Yeah.
I actually feel a lot of this going on from our water relatives.
I know we do.
They're all going there, going, woohoo, woohoo, love you.
I adore you.
They do.
Yeah, and there's a lot of allurement happening.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, my friends.
Have a good, until we meet again. Online
Yes.
and
Thank you.
And otherwise, yeah.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Indeed, thank you. And I feel like I have lots of next steps and exciting things. And I'm gonna do a little write up, a story of my perception. But other people could write up their perceptions as well and just share with the group, of what will be accomplished today. So.
Okay.
And I'll go through and listen to the recording and kind of capture. I mean, you have your notes, so I'll just if you want to, we can combine them. I'll go through the recording and add to your notes if important points.
And towards the end, we sped up as a group. There's no question about that. And the notes were impossible at the end. So.
Right.
Jay, I have a quick protocol question, if you could answer for me. What's the protocol when notes are taken at a meeting and then they're posted in a doc? If what happens around, say, corrections, or if we want to add something, first of all, is it allowed to edit? And then is there some way that we track with Google Docs that what we have changed? I just would love to understand that better.
Google Documents, it's automatic. So it automatically tracks like, 5 minutes?
Have you seen the hammer?
No, maybe the garage. It automatically tracks every single letter that's changed. So that's automatic. If anyone's at all concerned about adding anything to the notes, it's just good to put a line, just put it at the bottom. And otherwise, like, typically there's no issue in terms of updating it, or if you're listening to the recording, updating, getting it more clear. But again, adding anything to the bottom is perfectly fine. For example, let's say 2 people stayed on the call, and they kept talking. They would just add to the bottom, right? So from there, linking any other documents to the notes is also perfectly fine. And then at some point, sometimes it's years later, it's like, okay, these notes are done. You can take off and you can just do comments. And then in addition, you can always comment on notes. So there's a way to comment. You push the comment button. If I shared my screen, I could show you that. It's at the top. And then you can make comments anywhere in the notes without actually editing the notes. So yeah, and that's forever. You would always be able to make comments. Yeah.
So. Okay. And then just one other quick question. I know you need to go, Elizabeth, but Jay, when you're taking notes, are you actually typing what you're hearing, or is there some technical program in which what we're saying is translated into notes?
I am just so zoned and focused on the space that I just listen and it just flows through me. So like when I type entire sentences and every word that someone says, it's just me catching it all and writing it all down and typing as fast as I can.
Yeah. Okay, that's an art.
It's an art, I know, and a skill.
And it takes a little slower, but I'm technically possible this time because I've been doing it for so long to literally talk and type my own notes at the same time. But it's very difficult, and it's always better to have someone else do your notes when you're talking. Yeah, it goes slower.
One protocol I would suggest for our notes is that we keep it to corrections and what's in the recording, to keep the notes clean to the notes. And if you want to add something else or make comment, make it in the comments rather than in the body of the notes, or add it at the bottom, or attach a document or something, but that the notes stay as a transcription of the event as it occurred, rather than putting new stuff in, or thoughts or arguments, or debates or whatever.
And it's part of why we record. And it's also part of why we record, because we have 4 recordings, 5 if you include the notes. So there's plenty of recordings of different parts. I mean, they get cut off here and there. I mean, and I did the live broadcast on YouTube, so I don't know if it worked, but that is also there as well. So, the recordings should help, but then there's things that get cut off here and there. So anyways, we just do our best. And in the end, what happened in the past is not as important as us coming together again in the future and then being in the present.
So let me clarify, Jay. You did a live broadcast to YouTube this session?
Yes.
Okay. I would like us all to come into agreement before that happens, because I have some issues there with Facebook.
Oh, I didn't do Facebook. It's all YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. Okay,
yes.
So
I have problems with Facebook too.
It's the same thing.
It is definitely essentially the same thing, but slightly different. It's slightly
it's just that I would like to know that I am going live broadcast onto something, so that if I start talking about something that's sensitive, I'm responsible for my own what I say, and knowing that it's going live.
Yeah.
It's just.
I understand.
It's an agreement.
Yeah,
thing.
I understand. Overall, I live broadcast anything and everything, especially if it has anything to do with a planetary session. So it's kind of like, for example, you went to World Unity Week. World Unity Week was clearly presented as a live broadcast, right? So for me, the idea of the Unity session, of the specifically the planetary sessions and the Venus session, is that they are, that it's, that was part of the inherent context of it. So I'm definitely down to talk more about it. But the key thing here is that, I mean, I don't think anyone was watching it. And the main reason I specifically do YouTube is simply that YouTube saves it forever. So I don't know how Facebook works, but anything on Facebook just disappears, and you can't even find it on Facebook like a week later.
Right.
And then in terms of all the other live streaming, they put it up for a week or two, and then it disappears. But YouTube at this time, that you record and you can upload video, and it's there forever. So it's just like I don't have to worry about uploading or getting the thing is already there and it's already linked, so it just makes it simpler. That's the main reason I do it. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So again, with me, like pretty much anything and everything I do is open and transparent. And for all of our main events, like if we do the Mars session, it would just automatically be live broadcast and recorded. That's just sort of our framework. If that's a problem, we should discuss it, right? And
No,
make sure.
I mean, knowing that the planetary sessions, that you've already established that, I'm now in agreement that is what the planetary sessions are, right?
Okay.
So I just needed to know that,
Yeah.
and come into agreement with that. So
Cool.
And can I just clarify, the name of the channel is what, Jay?
All right, so we have a lot of different channels, and if you go to the Venus website, which I linked to the email, I can get if you need it. There's a link right there at the live stream part of it, and then this is planetary sessions. So because this was one of the primary planetary sessions, and we had the open spaces, which didn't really happen, but we kind of went through them, and then this was planned as part of that. It was all one component, and we had 2 videos. So that's the planetary session. If we had other sessions like later tonight, if we do the conversation or some other thing came up, which currently we don't, we have a Unity Network channel, and then we have Lunar Session channels. So we have a bunch of different channels, and for planetary sessions, we only broadcast planetary sessions on the planetary channel. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, but then we have many other channels that broadcast other types of sessions, including the Lunar, and we also have just the normal Unity Network channel just to broadcast anything. So, and again, we have like thousands of hours of broadcasts on YouTube. And it's just, no, I don't know if anyone's ever gonna listen to it, but we take out trainings, we'll pull out little sections of it, and so it's just all there and it's accessible publicly. And we're publicly transparent with everything we do. Check.
Yeah. Well, and I concur, like my YouTube channel, the Danalia Castel, same thing. Like all my singing to water and all my nature cleanup, all of that, I'm using it very much, like a documentary thing, because I'm quite prolific, but I haven't built the subscription up on it, but it is all there. And playlists, you can create playlists, of course, of whole projects or work with a particular body of water. So yeah, I do like the fact that it can be an archival place for the material.
well, thank you all. I'm needing to go hug my grandbaby.
Okay, bye. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Ariane, Artigan. If you had any last thing you need to say, please do. And then Dana, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Can't wait till the next one.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, we love you all dearly. Thank you for your service. We look forward to dialing more soon.
Yep. Bye.
Yeah, we really enjoy these sessions so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Love and light.
Love and light and flow. Thank you, Jay.
Cool. See you guys later.